Alright guys, so this is wow. The United States, they want Greenland. Now, ever since Trump took office, he has made it very clear that he wants to expand America's influence, not just through the dollar or global exports, but through greater territory as well. And it's why he has called for Canada to be the 51st state, is a big reason why he also called for the integration of Mexico as well. The US wants to expand their territory, and the easiest targets are your neighbors.
We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name. And it's appropriate. It's appropriate.
Now, does Trump have territorial ambitions? Actions speak louder than words. For over 3 months, he has been very vocal about taking back the Panama Canal to control vital choke points around the world. Getting BlackRock to acquire the Panama ports is a clear sign that the US wants to expand their global footprint. And in this case, the US wants to buy off the assets, which includes a portfolio of 43 ports from the Hong Kong company. Now, Trump's insisting that the US must own Greenland, and he has sent JD Vance there to make the point really clear. The US does have a military base on the island, but that's about it. The justification for the takeover is once again national security, to ensure the US is in a position to defend the free world and democracies. But that is a ridiculous notion. If that's the case, every country on earth should be a US state for a truly secure world. And it's important we analyze the statements from the White House because we are moving closer to the possibility of the US taking over Greenland or at least increasing their presence there massively. According to Trump, JD Vance is in Greenland in order to let them know we need Greenland for international safety and security. It's an island that, from a defensive posture and even an offensive posture, is something we need. Now, this is terrifying and it clearly shows we have entered the era of might is right, and people still say it's China trying to take over the world. But if you brand it under the flag of democracy, suddenly everything is fine. Now, once again, we are treading a very slippery slope because if Denmark gives in, then other territories around the world are up for grabs by the Trump administration. Now, listen to JD Vance's address on Greenland itself. It's very clear what the excuses are going to be and why Trump wants Greenland to be a US territory.
Well, the president said we have to have Greenland, and I think that we do have to be more serious about the security of Greenland. We can't just ignore this place. We can't just ignore the president's desires, but most importantly, we can't ignore what I said earlier, which is the Russian and Chinese encroachment in Greenland. We have to do more. Now, what the president said in his State of the Union address, and he was very clear about this, is we respect the self-determination of the people of Greenland, but my argument again to them is I think that you'd be a lot better coming under the United States security umbrella than you have been under Denmark's security umbrella. Because what Denmark's security umbrella has meant is effectively they've passed it all off to brave Americans and hoped that we would pick up the tab. We're simply saying to the people of Greenland, when the president says we've got to have Greenland, he's saying this island is not safe. A lot of people are interested in it. A lot of people are making a play. Yes, the people of Greenland are going to have self-determination. We hope that they choose to partner with the United States because we're the only nation on earth that will respect their sovereignty and respect their security, because their security is very much our security, as these brave Americans show.
Now, it's the Chinese and Russian boogeyman once again, is to secure Greenland against these new rising threats that are putting the island at risk. But more importantly, he highlighted the strength of the US military versus Denmark, which could actually sound like a bit like a veiled threat. Now, what's crazy is that the US can actually take steps to wrest control of Greenland from Denmark, and they might not even need to use physical force or mobilize the military. Now, Greenland is a self-governing territory within the Kingdom of Denmark. However, there is a loophole for the Greenlanders to leave. Under the 2009 law, Greenland can declare independence through a referendum. The people would vote to make it happen, and it would also require consent from the Danish parliament. And that part shouldn't be hard to get, because if Denmark refuses to recognize the referendum, the US can always hammer down on them. We could see sanctions or worse being imposed under the excuse of democracy and free elections. And if you're America, getting Greenland is rather straightforward. You have to appeal to the people there for them to push for a referendum, and Trump could really move to cut Greenland a sweet deal. Now, as it stands, Greenland is heavily dependent on Denmark for their budget. The Danish government provides only around $700 million a year, and the US is now using it as a bargaining chip. JD Vance is saying Denmark is not doing a good job. They are treating Greenlanders as second class citizens. And this is wow, the US is now coming in, using the investment angle to get Denmark.
But recognizing that there are important security partnerships in the past does not mean that we can't have disagreements with allies in the present about how to preserve our shared security for the future. And that's what this is about. There is no amount of bullying, no amount of obfuscating, no amount of confusing the issue. Our message to Denmark is very simple. You have not done a good job by the people of Greenland. You have underinvested in the people of Greenland, and you have underinvested in the security architecture of this incredible, beautiful landmass filled with incredible people. That has to change. And because it hasn't changed, this is why President Trump's policy in Greenland is what it is.
So we could see Trump over the next few months work out a deal for the people of Greenland. Now, he has said on occasions that he's willing to invest into the island to integrate it with the greater US economy. But isn't all just for security? No, not really. There are concrete objectives to controlling Greenland. Now, it allows the US to control vital choke points of the Northwest Passage that connects to the Northern Sea route. Over the years, the amount of ships operating in the Arctic has increased by 37%, from 1,300 to nearly 1,800. And as time goes by, this will be a vital trading route for countries in the BRICS, especially China and Russia. This is the logistical advantage of Greenland. It allows the US to basically have a base to watch and influence the Arctic trading routes. Even though there's less than 60,000 people there, Trump doesn't want Greenland for the additional headcount. He doesn't need it. It's all about what the territory can offer the United States. And interestingly enough, Russia's Putin understands what Trump is going after. It is a mistake to treat Trump's push for Greenland as a joke. He is serious about it. And a big part of the agenda is the vast deposit of rare minerals as well. Now consider Trump's big economic agenda. He wants to reshore production and he's committed to bring back key industries. And this includes semiconductors, electric vehicles, and pharmaceuticals. And to increase production in the US to export to the world, you need access to a ton of raw materials, which is exactly what Greenland has to offer Trump. It's a big gold mine of literally everything. Now, taking a look at the maps, the island is filled with three things the US needs. Europe found 25 of 34 critical minerals available there. You have rare earths, graphite, nickel, uranium, gold, and even diamonds. In fact, 60% of the non-ice territory has not even been surveyed, so there could be even bigger treasures underneath. Now, all the resources we can see here, especially in minerals and rare earths, are all along the coast. There could be even more discoveries towards the center of the island. Now, Trump has said multiple times he wants to bring back a manufacturing renaissance to turn the US into the export hub of the world, and to accomplish that, you need to flesh out your supply chains. During the tariff war, we can see China already playing the resource card by weaponizing their supply of commodities. In retaliation to the trade tariffs, Beijing cut away key materials to the United States. Even before that, China has been pushing back on Biden's chip war. In response to the semiconductor curb, China banned key materials to the US including antimony, gallium, and germanium. Making military hardware and semiconductors in the US is now more expensive. China has shrunk the existing supply in the world, and the US, they have to pay more to import raw materials. And ironically, Trump's tariff on the world is only going to increase the cost. Exporters of rare earths, they know the US needs this supply, so they can make US importers eat the tariffs completely. China's control of rare earth supply is impressive. They have 38% of global reserves and mine production, coming in at 44 million tons annually. The US hardly registers on the list with less than 2 million tons. But look at the rest of the countries here. Vietnam, Brazil, and Russia, they have the next biggest reserves and production. They are either part of BRICS or close partners with China. So Putin is absolutely right. Trump isn't in Greenland for the people or the scenery there. He might not even be there for security issues because no one really wants to challenge the US military. The real agenda is to secure vital resources for US industries to make them less reliant on China. Almost 80% of all US rare earths imports comes from Beijing. And why do you think Trump wants to end the Ukraine war and get Zelensky to sign off on a mineral deal? He wants to plug this gap to be more self-sufficient, and he's willing to snatch Greenland away from Denmark. Now, obviously, this is brutal, but consider what we have seen over the past 3 years, from oil sanctions to asset confiscation. Nothing is really off the table for the US today. And consider the state of Trump's tariff war. The tariffs are already raising prices across the board, especially when it comes to vehicles. A new car will cost thousands of dollars more, up to 12,000 in some reports. But Besson still believes the inflation fight is won.
January 20th, prices have come down. Inflation is under control. Interest rates are down. Energy is down. And Martha, I'll tell you that when we execute on our tax plan, on the deregulation, and on the energy dominance, every one of those is disinflationary.
Look, maybe Besson is right and we are all wrong, but it's imperative to gauge consumer sentiment to really understand what people in the United States are feeling today. In no uncertain terms, US consumers are afraid of inflation reigniting. Consumer sentiment has plunged dramatically down, heading back to the 2022 lows. But the 5 to 10 year inflation expectations is a disaster show. People are expecting long-term inflation to rise from 3% to 4.1%, which is a very big jump. That's going to affect how they consume and buy stuff. The higher we go, the more people will brace for impact and eventually cut spending. So a recession is seriously on the cards. Now I'm sure Trump and Besson knows this, and that's why the resource grab from Greenland isn't a dress rehearsal. It's the real deal. The amount of mineral wealth below the surface is astounding, and it's not just rare earths and gold, but other essential industrial inputs the United States needs. This chart says it all. In total, Greenland has at least $4.4 trillion of mineral wealth, 1.4 trillion in oil, and 300 billion in natural gas. And that's just the start. What's most shocking is the amount of rare earths on display. $1.5 trillion under the ground is a treasure trove of industrial resources any country would want. If the US gets Greenland, we can expect them to scrap every single environmental rule that is blocking exploration. Harvesting the minerals will be key to challenging China's dominance. So we can expect Trump to escalate his demands for Greenland, and this is only going to be the start. But let me know what you think. Will the US really acquire Greenland? And will it be within the next 4 years? Let me know in the comments below. Stay safe. Be sure to smash the like button and subscribe as we navigate through these crazy times.